Hey, welcome to the Midships channel. It's your Captain Corey, and I've just disembarked a 5-night cruise on one of the oldest ships in Carnival Cruise Line's fleet, the Carnival Paradise. So is this 25-year-old cruise ship worth spending your hard-earned vacation dollars on? In the interest of transparency here, I want to let you know that I paid full price for this cruise. All in, I paid less than $100 per day for this cruise. So was it worth it? Let's start at the beginning. I arrived at the port of Tampa Bay Cruise Terminal number 3 at my assigned arrival time of 12:30. On-site parking was just across the street, and it cost about $87 for 5 nights through the port. Walking over to the port, you have to cross one street and a set of trolley tracks before arriving at Terminal 3. In my case, the ship had returned late to Tampa because of a medical emergency, which ended up delaying the boarding process for me by about 2 hours. As a result, I spent about 1 hour waiting out in the hot sun just to drop off my luggage before I was able to head upstairs into the port and check in. Once through the luggage drop-off, things went really fast for me. I went through the Platinum and Diamond priority line, which really expedited my boarding considerably. If you don't have priority boarding in this particular port, expect to wait around 1 to 2 hours to get on board the ship. Overall, check-in went quite smoothly despite that holdup, except for when I was yelled at here for filming. Hello. Stepping on board the Carnival Paradise, it's a little bit like entering a time capsule back to the late 90s. As a matter of fact, I half expected to hear the Backstreet Boys or Chumbawamba playing on the speakers. But in all seriousness, Carnival has done a lovely job at keeping the Paradise relevant today, and I gotta say, in really good condition. I walked every deck of this ship, and aside from the odd spot of rust here or there, which even new cruise ships will have very quickly, the worst complaint I could make about the condition on this ship is that the wood on the pool deck is looking really old. But given that in the near to mid future, Carnival is more likely going to scrap this ship than refurbish it, that's just how it's gonna be for now. And that's okay, because this is a small cruise ship experience, something that a lot of people have grown very fond of, myself included. Unlike the mega ships from Carnival and Royal Caribbean, which can sometimes take as long as 10 minutes to walk from venue to venue on board, for the most part, you can get anywhere on the Paradise in under 3 to 5 minutes. I also very much enjoyed the fact that this ship only had about 2,100 people on board with me. And despite its size, for the most part, everything you could want on a cruise is likely still found on board the Paradise, with the exception of a few nice to haves, like a steakhouse or a large television screen over the main pool deck. Overall, the ship is very well suited for entertaining and caring for passengers who are on 3 to 5 night cruises. Any longer, and I think you'd find yourself getting a little bit bored with what was on offer, especially food and entertainment. Some of my favorite places on board the Paradise were, of course, the Lido deck. Carnival always does a big sail away party. It's one of their signature events on board their cruises. You don't want to miss it, especially if you're new to Carnival. Speaking of that pool deck, the most important part is the pool itself. And I can tell you that the pool on the Paradise, it's pretty big considering the size of the ship, and it seemed to offer enough space for everyone who was interested in using it. There's also 2 hot tubs that are situated next to the pool, and they're covered with umbrellas, so pretty comfortable in the hot sun. And there is a fair amount of seating, which never seemed to completely fill up my whole time on the ship. And the main pool isn't the only place to take a dip on board the Paradise, because at the aft of the ship, way up top, is a relatively new version of Carnival Waterworks, boasting slides for kids and kids at heart. This area never really seemed to get all that busy on my sailing, and there was plenty of space out here for lounging and hanging out with your family or friends. And for you parents out there who are looking to keep the kiddos happy while still keeping an eye on them, you get that beautiful aft ocean view, but you can still get that nice comfy chair, and watch out for your kids playing on those slides. They're heathens, I tell ya. Fun fact here, I have still never used a water slide on a cruise ship. Moving right along, if you're anything like me, you're probably a fan of tranquility, peace and quiet. And for that, you need to head to the aft of the ship to the Serenity area. Back here, you'll find covered seating, outdoor lounge chairs, and a generously sized hot tub, which was warm, and you could find me in there almost every night of the cruise. Now, we all know one of the more popular places on any ship is the casino. And Carnival Paradise has a sizable gambling offering with everything from slot machines, blackjack, poker, roulette, even a craps table. Right, let's talk about my room. I stayed in cabin R210. I picked this cabin specifically because it offered easy access straight up to the ship's buffet and the aft restaurant. Being near the back of the ship and down low, I was a little worried that I might feel some vibrations from the engines, but luckily that was never a problem for me. I didn't even feel the ship shudder a single time. I chose an interior cabin for this cruise since I was cruising solo and would end up having to pay double occupancy fares. Cabin R210 has seen some updates over the years, just like most cabins on this ship, and it looks like a standard Carnival cruise cabin from the mid-2010s to me. Well appointed with a decent sized television, queen bed, nice desk and a mini fridge, a hair dryer that happily I can report worked quite well to keep my fluff going, and tons of storage, albeit a little bit dark storage. It was kind of hard to see in. There wasn't a lot of light. During the most recent renovation of this ship, Carnival went out of their way to make these cabins a little bit more modern, with the addition of 2 USB ports on the desk, as well as 2 additional ports on the far side of the bed. There's also a traditional US style outlet and European plug at the desk. And if you're interested in that travel router that you see there on the screen or the multi-plug outlet expander, here's a link to my Amazon Cruise Essentials store. You can buy them both in there. They're really inexpensive. Moving into the bathroom, I was very surprised to find out how large it really was. It actually felt a little bit bigger than most Carnival Cruise Line bathrooms. And I came to this conclusion simply by counting the towels on the wall. I don't know what my cabin steward was doing, but the guy really liked to give me towels. As a matter of fact, there was one of me in the room and at least 10 towels at all times. There's a couple downsides here in the bathroom. One, it's not a glass enclosure. It's a nasty shower curtain that gets stuck in your butt crack. The other one is there was an overall lack of storage. There was one shelf to go around, which wasn't a problem for me cruising solo, but if you're cruising with more than one person, storage would be an issue in that bathroom. So just bring something, either an over-the-door organizer or just put those toiletries out in one of the cabinets. 2 more things here on the cabin that I would have liked to have known instead of just discovered. First off, some of the cabins on the ship are on a central climate control system, which means there is a knob in your ceiling. It looks like this. This is how you control your air conditioning. You turn it open to get colder, closed to get the room warmer. That's not the case for every cabin on the Paradise. Some of the rooms there have traditional thermostats with the buttons or the dials. Second, I know a lot of you like to bring magnets so you can hang things on the walls. At least in my specific cabin, the walls did not hold these hooks. I could not even hang my lanyard up on one of the hooks. It would just slide down. However, my hook stuck very well on the door frames and on the ceiling. Of note, the cabin was nice and clean. I didn't smell any strange smells in there, although some of the reviews for this ship are a lot more questionable than my cabin, especially this one about blood all over the room on the walls. Although now that I bring it up, there was actually one pretty gross problem in my cabin. I'll share that with you later on when I give you my final thoughts and review. Okay, let's talk about food, shall we? The good news is that nearly everywhere you eat on the Paradise, your food is included with your cruise fare, with only 2 exceptions to this rule: Java Blue Cafe and the Chef's Table Experience. Carnival cruisers will be excited to hear that their favorite staples, though, like Guy's Burger and Blue Iguana Cantina, are both on board Paradise. It's a small ship, however, so the lines are going to be kind of long at busy times of day for these 2 venues because, well, they're just ever so popular. I will say the Guy's Burger on this ship was my least favorite in Carnival's fleet across 12 ships now. As a matter of fact, I ended up not eating one of my hamburgers past the first bite because it was completely burnt all the way through the patty. It was just charred like a hockey puck. Blue Iguana Cantina, however, was spot on. I had some delicious tacos with fresh made tortillas, and the toppings bar at both Blue Iguana and Guy's Burgers, I am happy to say, was stuffed full of fresh, delicious toppings, all good quality. Great food, again, with that one exception, the burger patty at Guy's Burger joint. And believe it or not, we have nearly halfway covered the dining options on board this ship. I told you you'd only want to be on board for about 5 days. The other included casual option on board is the Lido Marketplace. It's the buffet. This is sort of your standard fare mainline cruise buffet, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Lido Marketplace is on the aft of the ship on deck 10, and it offered a good variety of food, if not a little bit less than you might find on other ships, larger ships like the Celebration or Jubilee. Though the food overall, I'm happy to say, was quite tasty and cooked right. I never ran into any situation where there was just an empty tray with nothing left in it. The food was as advertised and always available. Back here in the Lido Marketplace, you'll also find the pizza shop as well as the Carnival Deli and Swirls Ice Cream. These are all included options for you. Check out the deli. There's some really good food there. Now, the last dining venue we need to cover on board Paradise is the main dining room. Now, the food here was actually pretty good as well, about on par with most Carnival cruises, though the portion sizes were a little bit on the large size. Most of the food that I ordered came out at the right temperature and was cooked well, like I had asked. Not well done, but they cooked it well. And recently, I've noticed that Carnival is now offering some entree-sized salads, and all of those were good. I tried several of them. Throughout the course of this cruise, I dined on salmon, brisket, chicken parmesan, cookies, pasta carbonara, and every good dinner ends with a good dessert, right? And the Paradise had pretty okay desserts. They were very average. Your standard fare, the chocolate melting cake, everybody orders it, and it was good. It was cooked just right. There were some misses though. The creme brulee, absolutely not. Just skip it. I normally love Carnival's creme brulee. This one was overly sweet for me. Instead, I decided to opt for dessert off the kids menu. Even though I'm in my 30s, yes, you're still allowed to order off the kids menu anytime you want on a Carnival cruise. This is my banana split. I also recommend the mac and cheese if you're wondering. Speaking of the mac and cheese, the main dining room is not just open for dinner, it's also open for a couple of other things as well. My favorite of which being Sea Day brunch. And lucky me, I had 2 sea days on this cruise, which means I got to have all of my favorite. Huevos rancheros, yogurt parfait, chicken and waffles, mac and cheese, and all the coffee I could drink. And that's not even all that you can eat in the dining room, because on the Paradise during a sea day, I attended afternoon tea, where I got these amazing chocolate strawberry tarts along with green tea. It's free to do. Don't skip out on afternoon tea on a sea day. Just do the tea. And what cruise would be complete without a little bit of entertainment, right? Well, like most things on the Paradise, a little bit is truly what we're going to have here. However, that doesn't mean it was bad in any sense of the terms. I spent most of my evenings in the piano bar on board. I had a fantastic time in a very enjoyable venue. It might be my favorite piano bar on Carnival. I was also able to take in the one and only headliner show that's on this ship. It was a nice large production, a rock show, good dancing, nice singing, great music choices. The performers actually ended up coming out into the crowd, so it was very entertaining and up close and personal. So all in all, it's a nice theater and you'll have a good time watching the show in there. It's not like other cruise lines though, where there's every night a different show going on. My 5-night cruise had 2 port stops along the way. The first being Cozumel, Mexico, the second Mahogany Bay in Honduras. And for once, Cozumel didn't rain the whole time I was there, which was a nice change of pace, especially in the late summertime. If you're going to Cozumel, expect a bit of bad weather to pass through. Normally it's rain for 20 minutes, dry for 2 hours, rinse and repeat. The Paradise pulls into the newest port area in Cozumel. That's where most of the Carnival ships end up docking. I've been off here several times, so I actually just stayed on board the ship and played putt-putt. This was an adventure in itself because as I was filming, I ended up dropping my phone into that area over there. Was behind a safety net and at the very top of a glass ceiling that looks down 10 stories. So I ended up having to use like 2 putters like chopsticks to pull my phone up. I'm sure security had a wonderful time watching the video of me doing this. But yes, there is a putt-putt course up here. It's in really good shape. The balls are made of foam and blow with the smallest bit of breeze, so you can only really play it when you're in port. But I think the most entertainment in Cozumel was our special friend that joined us all day. Take a look. This little fella is an osprey. He decided to join us in the morning around 10 a.m. And this is the same osprey hours later as we were pulling away from Cozumel. And this is still the same osprey when we were almost 2 miles off of shore. And that's when Carnival finally decided to send a crew member out to shake the flag under him, so he didn't come to Honduras with us. It scared him away, and the day was saved, a happy ending. The next day, we ended up in port in Mahogany Bay, which is the highlight of this cruise. It's where all of your time and memories are really going to be made. It's a private beach area reserved only for Carnival passengers. A lot of times, you are the only ship in port. However, we had a flip-flop to our schedule, and we ended up there with the largest ship in Carnival's fleet, the Jubilee, which meant that Mahogany Bay was very busy. So I stayed on at least until after lunch. I got off the ship around 2 p.m. and I started exploring some places I haven't been in Mahogany Bay. You see, I normally go here. I pay the $15 or $20 and get the wristband for the ride all day cable car ride. It takes you over to the beach. Amazing views of your ship along the way. It's a wonderful opportunity for some photos and just to see what's going on around you. Instead, this time I walked down a wonderful little trail. It takes about 5 minutes, and it was a reward for me. I tell you what, don't skip on this. It turned out to be a really cool find. Now, if you have mobility issues, stay on the main paved path. It's probably not for you. But if you can walk it, you're going to be rewarded. As a matter of fact, I ran into some old dinosaurs. They were small dinosaurs. And there's a secret photo op back here. This wonderful handmade Mahogany Bay arch and bench. Man, you should check this out if you're in Mahogany Bay. It's worth the extra little bit of a detour. And did I mention it's nice and shady and there's even misters along the way? Once I got to the beach, well, here it is. This is what the water in Mahogany Bay looks like after 6,000 people went swimming here today. The water's not as clear as it would have been in the early morning. A top tip here though, there's blue mats that float. Some people would just call them floats. As far as I know, these are still free for you to grab and use if they're available laying around. But as you can see here, with 2 to 3 hours left before all aboard, I was the only person on the beach. So there's your top tip. Wait till after lunch and go out to enjoy Mahogany Bay. Enjoy the stuff on board first. Everybody's going to be tired and back on the ship, and you got the whole place to yourself. There's great drink service. People were coming up to me asking for everything I wanted. No waiting for anything. In Mahogany Bay, there's some other things you can do. There's zip lining, paddle boats, kayaking, those sort of things if you're interested. And now it's time for me to give you my personal thoughts and opinions, my review, so to speak, of Carnival Paradise. The ship, it's getting on in years. It might still be in really good shape, but she's lacking in several basic amenities that most cruise passengers are used to. The aforementioned specialty dining, not there. There's no TV over the pool deck. The layout on board, it's straightforward, easy to navigate and get around, but it's small and narrow and closed off in comparison to most modern cruise ships. Also, the ceilings are lower and the hallways, you're going to be bumping into people. Entertainment options are fairly limited compared to larger cruise ships. As I mentioned, one headliner show on board. The rest of the evenings, you'll find musical acts spread throughout the ship, the piano bar, violin players, and some guitar singers, along with karaoke and love and marriage, those kind of shows. You just got to look in your cruise planner and you'll find something to do to keep yourself entertained. But you're going to have to do a little bit more work than you might on a newer ship. The other big drawback for this cruise was a lack of variety of food options. The food that they had was all relatively good. I was happy with it. It was cooked just right. Portions were ample. The flavors were spot on. I just wish there was 1 or 2 more places to eat on board, because even after 5 days, I found myself already bored of the food options that were on board. And did I mention earlier that there was something kind of icky in my cabin? This is what that was. This was one of the included glasses in my cabin when I walked on board. I order soda in my room every cruise, and I had just opened it and poured it into my cup. Went to take a sip when I found this fuzzy lipstick print on my cup. Gross. Needless to say, I just popped out and got a new cup, and well, I missed out on 1 can of soda. But don't let these small drawbacks or issues dissuade you from considering cruising on this ship, especially if you appreciate more quiet cruises with less people. Smaller ships, you're going to have a nice cruise experience overall, and you're going to pay a lot less for it. Plus, most of Carnival's staples are on board: your casinos, your bingos, your trivias. There's a pool to lounge by, there's a spa to go to. If you're creative enough and you use your cruise planner, you can have a wonderful vacation on the Carnival Paradise. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed with your cruise on here. But just keep in mind, this is a 3.5 out of 5-star rated cruise ship on Cruise Critic. So just know going into that that's what you're getting into. Remember, this cruise costs under $100 per person per day. And you're getting 3 meals, plus as much as you can eat snack-wise, entertainment, a hotel room, travel to foreign countries, a private beach resort to use. Overall, I think the Carnival Paradise is a good value for your money. And I think if you have a few vacation days left and you want to figure out what to do, you ought to consider this ship for your next cruise. And if this video piqued your interest for a short budget cruise out of Tampa, why don't you check out this review I did for my recent cruise on the Margaritaville Islander, a strong competitor out of the same port for the same price. We'll see you there.
La 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 la.